So there I was, browsing for cars when I came across the 1957 BMW Zeta 300 X Sport, a feat of German engineering and Italian design. The first thing that came to mind was whether I could win a race with it or not. However, with the performance index of D100, I wasn't feeling confident. So I grabbed my imaginary tools, put on my imaginary hat, and I started to imagine that I knew what needed to be done to turn this car into a racing machine. And yes, you're probably right. I don't know much about cars, and games like this remind me how much I don't know. Still, I know that green equals good and red equals the opposite of whatever green is. With my vast vehicle knowledge expertise at hand, I spared no expense in making sure that I gave this microcar the best parts possible. The Finnish architect Alvar Aalto once said, "Form must have content, and that content must be linked with nature." So, like any good artist, I decked out the Asceta 300 with wood from the now former world tallest redwood tree. With the performance index of A787, finally had a microcar worthy of a race. So I lathered myself in water-based varnish and conducted my test drive to see what little Woody could do. After running every road test imaginable on this car, I eagerly jumped into a race to see what it was capable of doing. With run number one underway, it didn't take long for me to get confident at the speed of Little Woody in the initial straightaway. I was feeling good all throughout lap 1, but it was in lap 2 where that confidence depleted as I shot the wooden bed on a turn that a toddler on a rocking horse could have made. Near the end of the second lap, I recognized that my ally would be the final turn into the finish line, allowing me to push Little Woody to gain positions on almost every lap of every run. But those gains would come at a cost. That cost being my cockiness. Sure, I gained positions, but that didn't mean I knew how to corner and turn properly. You see what I mean? I had to hit or rewind only to make a turn wider than the gap between my front two teeth. Now, you remember that final stretch turn I said was my ally? Well, I pulled a Judas and betrayed the trust they had given me by braking too hard, causing me to love tap a wall, spin out, and land myself in 6th place. Now in run number 2, Little Woody and I were going to stick this through till the end. I had no real strategy in mind. I knew that I needed to go fast and make my gains on that final stretch curve, because the one thing I haven't learned is how to properly slow down for a hairpin turn. Hey, that kinda rhymed. Honestly, I blame my lack of hairpin usage. Then I decided to see if I could be a better racer if I was inside the cockpit of the car. But it didn't take me long to abandon that idea, and I immediately bailed back outside. But, in spite of all my failures, I worked with my strengths as I entered lap number 3, pushing Little Woody to its limits. And like a firefighter rushing into the suburbs to save an old woman's cat from atop a tree, I climbed the ladder and pulled myself out of second last place. And for a brief moment, it's like I knew what I needed to do to win. To get onto that podium and be crowned winner alongside my wooden machine of speed. But in my excitement, I rammed Little Woody into the back of a Volkswagen van, pushing them across the finish line the same way Lightning McQueen had pushed the King. after losing the first and the second run of this race, I realized that I was going about it the wrong way. Instead of trying to win the race, I should have been studying the track in the car. So run number 3 was just that, a study session. I needed to study every turn, every straightaway, and every checkpoint. Knowing when to brake was just as important as knowing when to go fast. Instead of condemning my mistakes, I decided to welcome them with open doors. In this case, a door. I stopped worrying about gaining positions, and I tried to stay focused on developing a perfect lap. So I hit the brakes early, I traded paint, and as always, I hit plenty of checkpoint flags. By the end of lap number 2, I was feeling good. However, towards the end of lap number 3, I had reached 3rd place, and through my tiny windshield, I could see victory. The name Little Woody being shouted by the masses echoed in my ego like the 7th and final trumpet call from the heavens above us all. I said screw learning. I tossed my books in the trash and made a mad dash for 1st place, only to be reminded what the little in Little Woody stood for by that long Volkswagen van bitch. At least 2nd place ain't that bad. I wasn't giving up. I needed to accomplish what I set out to do. Win a race. So I took what I learned before tossing my books aside, and I applied my newfound knowledge. Now, I may not get that perfect lap, but I sure as shit wasn't going to lose. Enjoy.
Disease of play, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display.